Hello everyone, today we are going on a journey to a country in Africa full of precious gems, a country that has never been part of the European Union, where twins are not viewed positively, where beauty is very different. The older the twins, the more beautiful they are considered, where there is an animal with a tail that chases and kills lions. But did you know that this is also a country where these animals are raised by hand? They are loved. Did you know that this country holds the world record for the maximum number of passengers on a single plane? When the seats are removed and its cities are transformed into Israel, it is the second largest country in the world. Pimpri, the country of Bilqis by the Queen, the territory of King Najashi, where Muslims first turned twice, Conic were permitted, and Syed called Bilal Razia, the land of inscriptions. It was Bilal who walked on the earth, but the sound of his footfall was like the steps of heaven. Welcome to Ethiopia. What if I told you that one of the oldest tales of mankind is being lived even today? Not in a place like a museum, not in the pages of a dusty book, but in a nation where history is woven into the fabric of daily existence. A location where civilizations sprung up thousands of years ago, where the ancient kings once traded with the globe, and where customs that seem lost elsewhere are nonetheless part of the everyday. This is Ethiopia, officially called as the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia. This great country is located in the Horn of Africa, a location that has seen some of human history's most crucial pages. Its capital, Addis Ababa, is sometimes referred to as the political capital of Africa. But the tale of Ethiopia is significantly more than any city of today. Conic Ethiopia is Africa's second most populated nation, with a population of more than 120 million. But what really sets it unique is not its size, it's its identity. Many countries have been created by external forces, but Ethiopia has established its own culture, language, and history. Journey across its slopes, its valleys, and its highlands, and you will uncover settlements with origins going back generations. Listen really intently, and you may hear tales handed down from one generation to the next. Kings' stories of religion, of perseverance, and of a people that have kept their heritage through innumerable trials. Ethiopia is not a nation on the map. It is a live bridge between the ancient world and the current day. Conic. And as we start our adventure, you will find out why millions of people consider Ethiopia to be one of the most intriguing countries on Earth. But to really comprehend Ethiopia, you have to go beyond its past. You have to look at the terrain itself. That's because it is a nation that seems determined to defy expectations. Ethiopia is landlocked, unlike many countries that became rich by having access to the sea. No coast, no large seaports, no direct ocean access, and yet it is one of the most influential nations in Africa. Ethiopia has borders with Eritrea, Djibouti, Somalia, Kenya, South Sudan, and Sudan, and is at a crossroads where cultures, religions, and commerce routes have met for millennia. And the scenery is just as stunning. Towering uplands look down on lush lowlands. Ancient country, deeply broken up by ravines, great plateaus climb to the far vistas. Conic, the cold mountain air of parts of Africa, seems a world apart from the searing heat of the rest of the continent. But Ethiopia's greatest variety is not in geography, it's in the people. There are more than 80 ethnic groups living in this nation, each with their own customs, dialects, legends, and cultural identity. These groups have molded the character of Ethiopia for centuries and have produced one of the continent's most culturally rich nations. Religion has also been a cornerstone of life in Ethiopia. Here, Christianity and Islam have lived together for centuries, shaping everything from the architecture and the festivals to the family customs and the everyday rhythm of life. Conic Ethiopia also had a historic Jewish population that had been there for decades, giving another layer to the country's distinctive cultural tapestry. In many respects, Ethiopia seems less like a country than a living collection of cultures. Various voices, various histories, different traditions, all on the same magnificent terrain. And that variety could be one of Ethiopia's greatest virtues. But what if the story of Ethiopia didn't start with the present-day borders, administrations, or even the nations we know today? What if it took place at a time when mythology and history were impossible to distinguish? Long before many of the world's most famous civilizations had reached their peak, Ethiopia was writing its own story. This nation is home to one of Africa's oldest remaining civilizations, a place where ancient kingdoms grew and flourished, and where the diverse parts of the world were connected via trade, culture, and religion. Few stories capture the imagination like the legendary nuptials of the Queen of Sheba and King Solomon. For eons, this story has lived on in folklore, scripture, and the popular imagination. Iconic. Whether it's reality, myth, or any combination thereof, it is ingrained in Ethiopia's identity. But Ethiopia's splendor was not founded on stories alone. It was about empires. One of the strongest civilizations the ancient world has produced is the Kingdom of Aksum. At its height, Aksum controlled important trade routes between Africa, Arabia, and parts of Asia. Merchants sent gold, ivory, spices, and ideas across long distances and helped to create Aksum a center of commerce and power. And then there came a moment which was to alter the fate of the nation for eons. Aksum was one of the first states in the world to officially convert to Christianity, in the 4th century. That decision had a lasting impact on Ethiopian culture, architecture, and identity. Iconic throughout history, empires have both risen and fallen. Many disappeared into thin air. But Ethiopia was still suffering, generation to generation, century after century. A living connection to an ancient culture that still speaks to the whole country today. But there is one narrative that rises above all of the empires, kingdoms, and old stories tied to Ethiopia. This narrative is not about power, it's about sanctuary. It's about a terrified bunch of individuals trying to find a place to be safe, in a world that looked hell-bent on rejecting them. And it starts more than 1400 years ago. They were being persecuted in Mecca, and many of the early converts to Islam were presented with an impossible option: stay and endure, or give up everything. Their houses, their family, their recollections. Think about standing on a beach, staring back at the only life you've ever known, not knowing whether you will ever come back. Such was the case with the early Muslim immigration. They were not going to a rich empire. It was Ethiopia. Iconic. At that time, the country was controlled by King Najashi, or the Negus. History does not see him as a conqueror, but as a fair ruler. He heard the refugees' stories when they came to him for safety, and even when strong opponents demanded them back, he refused to give them up. Instead, he gave them security. Ethiopia was more than a state for the early Muslims. It was a refuge, somewhere they could worship freely and live without fear. That time left a permanent impression in Islamic history. Ethiopia still retains a unique place in the hearts of many Muslims throughout the globe today. Across the nation, this incredible chapter still lives on in majestic mosques, venerable religious monuments, and centuries-old customs. Iconic. Because the most significant events in history are not always the wars that were fought. They are the lives that have been saved. And Ethiopia's past tells us that compassion can shape history as strongly as any empire ever could. But Ethiopia's history informs you where the nation comes from, and its people tell you who it is. And here is when the narrative becomes very interesting. There are locations in Ethiopia where contemporary life seems unexpectedly far away. Places where age-old customs still color daily life. Places where culture is not kept in museums. It is still alive. Travel into the distant areas of Ethiopia and you will discover societies like no other on earth. The most notable are the Mursi and Hamar tribes, whose habits have intrigued visitors, photographers, and historians for decades. Above all, the Mursi are recognized for a ritual that usually comes as a surprise to visitors. Some ladies wear huge lip plates as a sign of ethnic identity and attractiveness. Iconic. For many visitors, this may appear strange, but to the community, it is history, pride, and belonging. And that's an essential reminder. No one culture defines beauty. Ethiopia is a country where dozens of ethnic groups have their own language, rituals, styles of dress and customs that have lasted across centuries of change. Even time seems strange here. Ethiopia has its own calendar, which has 13 months, and is different from the calendar used by the rest of the globe. In certain rural regions, ancient barter systems still operate, where items are swapped directly without money. Imagine a practice long gone in many nations nevertheless lives here. Maybe that's what makes Ethiopia so special. It's not just about preserving history. Connecticut is living next to it. In a world that is changing at a quick pace, Ethiopia is one of the few countries where old traditions, cultural identity, and contemporary living still coexist. And that linked to the past is something rather unusual nowadays. But every country has a spot where its history, present, and future meet. For Ethiopia, this site is Addis Ababa. And if Ethiopia is one of the most interesting nations in Africa, Addis Ababa may be one of the most significant cities in Africa. It seems like a metropolis in motion at first glimpse. Traffic jam, growing skylines. Markets are crowded construction cranes reaching into the sky. But there is something far deeper underlying that intensity. A metropolis that carries the heritage while working to define Africa's future. Addis Ababa was founded in the late 19th century and has evolved to become Ethiopia's biggest metropolis and its political, economic, and cultural hub. Millions come here looking for opportunities, education, and a better life. But the impact of Addis Ababa reaches well beyond the boundaries of Ethiopia. The city is the seat of the African Union, the body that brings together governments from across the continent. Here, therefore, are held some of the most significant diplomatic meetings, political talks, and international decisions affecting Africa. In many respects, Addis Ababa is the diplomatic center of Africa, but a city is more than government buildings and convention centers. It also has museums, historical sites, colleges, and cultural organizations that help keep the incredible tale of Ethiopia alive. Stroll around its neighborhoods, and you'll see a mix of old and modern customs, modern-day enterprises. Historical churches, skyscrapers today, all side by side. Maybe it is why Addis Ababa is so distinctive. It is a gateway to Ethiopia and beyond. It is a key to comprehending Africa itself, a city where the history, culture, difficulties, and aspirations of the continent meet every day. And Ethiopia still connects itself to the outside world via its streets. But what if I told you some of Ethiopia's greatest treasures were not constructed above ground? They were cut into him, concealed among mountains. Time is a shield, and waiting for centuries for the world to find them. Ethiopia is more than a nation with ancient history. Here you may still see the past before your eyes. Nowhere is it more stunning than here in Lalibela. Imagine landing at a location where churches were cut entirely out of solid rock, unassembled stone by stone, not made with bricks, carved down into the soil itself. The holy paths have been traveled for generations by worshippers, leading down to what appear like constructions practically impossible to make without modern equipment. But they were constructed hundreds of years ago. Today, Lalibela is one of the great architectural marvels of Africa and one of the most prominent pilgrimage destinations in the Christian world. And then there's Harar, a city like no other. Harar often referred to be one of the holiest towns of Islam in Africa, with hundreds of mosques, small alleys, and centuries of religious learning. Walking its historic alleyways is like traveling back in time. And outside the city is one of nature's most wonderful views. Blue Nile Falls. Powerful rivers roar over the terrain here, producing a spectacle which has fascinated travelers for centuries. Across Ethiopia, UNESCO World Heritage Sites tell the tales of religion, commerce, rulers, and civilizations that contributed define human history. But these sites are more than just tourist destinations. They are live reminders of what the Ethiopian people are, their religion, their endurance, their link to the past. And maybe it is what made Ethiopia memorable. It shows you more than just history. You can walk through it. But what if there's a nation in the 21st century which has thousands of years of history? Can a primitive civilization keep up with a rapidly changing world? Ethiopia tries to address that question every day. The solution is far more difficult than most people think. Ethiopia has something increasingly unusual for vacationers: genuineness. It is not merely a place with tourist attractions. It is a nation where history, culture, religion, and everyday living still go hand in hand. They come to witness the historic churches, holy cities, gorgeous landscapes, and customs preserved over the decades. And unlike many of the world's most famous destinations, you may be surprised to learn that Ethiopia is cheap for travelers looking for enriching experiences over luxury resorts. Iconic. But there's another tale at play, apart from the visitors. A narrative about growing up. Across the nation, new railroads, highways, enterprises, and infrastructure projects are reshaping the landscape. Cities are coming of age. Investment in expansion continues. And millions of young Ethiopians look ahead with hope and resolve. The national currency, the Ethiopian birr, is a sign of that autonomous economic course. But the road ahead for Ethiopia is not without its problems. Many emerging countries have the same problems, such as economic disparities, the need for infrastructure, political difficulties, and security worries in the area. They are real people, real realities, families, student workers, communities seeking for a better way of life. Iconic, and perhaps that's what makes contemporary Ethiopia so intriguing. This is not a country stuck in time. It is a country that touches you, mixing the fresh ideas with the old customs, remaining faithful to itself, yet also open to change. As Ethiopia continues to thrive, the world is seeing one of Africa's most remarkable tales unfold in real time. But the most wonderful thing in Ethiopia may not be anything you can see. That is the way it is. And seeing that Ethiopia does not longer seem as simply another country on the map. It's a story, you know. A story that has been unfolding over thousands of years. A tale of trust on the fortitude, of identity, and of those who never want their history erased. Civilizations have risen and fallen all throughout the world. The empires were gone. Languages have perished. Traditions were history. Yet Ethiopia survived across the ancient kingdoms, through a change of religion, through political turmoil, and the slow march of time. Many Muslims warmly recall Ethiopia for the first hijrah and the protection offered to the very first adherents of Islam by King Najashi. Iconic, for many Christians, it is home to some of the earliest Christian traditions on earth. To the historian, it is one of the profoundest stores of human civilization in Africa. And it's a place where every road leads to another story to be recounted for tourists. There is no one monument, no one faith, no one culture that makes Ethiopia distinct. How all these levels coexist, old and modern, old and new, worldwide and local. This nation is a symbol of African identity, independence, and pride of culture. A place where the past never really leaves. It lives on in people, in the land, in the languages and practices of everyday life. And that, perhaps, is Ethiopia's greatest gift to the world. Remember, history is not only something we learn, it's something we're born with, something we protect. Iconic, and something we pass on. Ethiopia stays with you a long time after the trip is over, not as a destination you saw, but as one of the most abiding narratives of humanity. If this gave you a fresh viewpoint, subscribe for more intriguing views, and tell me what spoke to you the most in today's video. Thanks for viewing the whole video. See you in the future one.